What's up YouTube? Welcome to the Strength Core. My name is Sean Otley. I'm a competitive powerlifter and strength coach, and welcome to another video. So as you saw in today's video, we're going to be talking about 10 things that I've learned from 10 years of lifting. It came to my attention this past January 1st. Yes, I am a New Year's resolutioner that I've been lifting for 10 years, and that's a really long time. It's an entire decade that I've had of lifting and training in all different aspects. So I decided to share with you guys 10 things I've learned in that time. Hopefully you can relate to some of these things, or if you're early on in your journey, you can look forward to learning some of these things along the way. So without further ado, not gonna do too much talking. Let's get into the 10 things I've learned in 10 years of lifting. So the very first thing, number one, that I learned is that sometimes less is more. I actually went over this in a separate video I had in 5 things I wish I knew when I first started lifting. I'll link that video over here so you guys can go watch that one as well. But pretty much I think that whenever you're in the realm of fitness, you tend to start thinking more is gonna get you more results. You think that working out more days or doing more exercises or adding unnecessary amounts of weight is going to progress you to the goals that you want to achieve, when in all reality, sometimes doing too much can actually set you back in those goals, whether it be from you being injured or too fatigued and under recovered. What I've learned is that sometimes doing a little bit less actually leads to greater results in the long run. So I think that that's something that I had to learn kind of the hard way, because I've definitely dealt with injury. I've definitely been beat up and like super tired from just doing way too much when I probably could have just, done a little bit less and actually felt better and performed a little bit better too. So definitely something I've learned. And again, check out that other video where I go into more detail about it. The second thing I've learned in 10 years of lifting is I've developed an appreciation for all aspects of fitness. I think early on in my fitness journey, I was very much so into like the bodybuilding realm. So I was, living the bodybuilding lifestyle with, following macros and high volume training and, dieting down after bulking up and stuff like that. And I kind of just was not really interested in any other aspects. Like, I wasn't interested in powerlifting. I actually have an old video where I mentioned I probably will never powerlift, and here we are. Now I'm trying to be top 10 in my weight class, but so never say never. But I just wasn't interested in any other aspects, and I think over the time of these last 10 years, I've kind of developed a respect for any aspect of fitness, not just my own. Powerlifting is my niche, but I did come from bodybuilding where I can appreciate it and respect it. I respect obviously athletes who, play sports like basketball, football, soccer, baseball, or if you are into like Brazilian jiu-jitsu or any other type of martial art or just any type of physical activity. I just have a respect for it. And I think I was a little more closed-minded early on in my journey. And now it's just whether I meet someone and they powerlift, which is great because we kind of can share that, or they do something that I have no idea what it is, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I just have a respect for them, that they are challenging themselves and setting goals for themselves in that realm. And I have like a huge respect for that I didn't have early on. The third thing I learned in my 10 years of lifting is about longevity, and the fact that setting goals is the key to longevity. What I mean by that is there's been definitely plenty of times throughout my journey that I've been unmotivated or felt like I kind of hit a dead end, or that I just wasn't progressing and I kind of just was staying where I am. It actually is what led me to start powerlifting, because I got to a point where I looked really good when I was bodybuilding, and it was to the point where I was like, I could just keep doing this the rest of my life, not add any weight, not do anything differently, and I just would maintain this physique. And I got bored and I wasn't motivated anymore. I kind of was just an autopilot. And for me, that just didn't feel good. And now that I'm in the world of powerlifting, where I'm constantly chasing new tangible numbers to hit on the big 3 lifts, I feel like I will never run out of motivation, ever again, because I'll always want to add a little more weight on there. So I definitely think that having those goals set, whether it be a weight loss goal or a rep goal, or you want to lift more this year than you did last year, or even if it's something super simple like you didn't hit the gym at all last year and you want to do 100 days this year, so you want to at least hit like a third of the year working out, something like that. Just something tangible that you can look at the end of a certain period of time and assess whether you actually accomplished that or not. Having those goals will keep you focused, it keeps you motivated, and it's what's kept me in the game for 10 years. The fourth thing I've learned in 10 years is that you are typically influenced by your environment. your training environment, that is. And what I mean by that is, if you tend to go to a gym where people are working really hard, you're gonna tend to work really hard, and vice versa. A little quick blurb about myself. Some of you guys already know this, but I used to train at a 24-hour fitness, and it came to a point where I pretty much was one of, if not the strongest person in the gym. And what that led to was, it was cool because I felt like that guy, but I got a little lazy. Because I was like, you know what? I don't even have to try that hard. And like, everybody kind of is always respecting me, even when I'm not giving my full effort. And I definitely needed to challenge myself. And I had another video I made about switching gyms, and I wanted to do that so many times, and I just couldn't because I didn't want to leave my friends, or I was comfortable in my environment. Because I kind of could just coast a little bit. But what I decided to do was go to a new gym, a powerlifting gym, where I was not the strongest person. When I loaded weight on the bar, there was not people looking at me in awe. They were just, looking at me like I was just any other lifter. And I wanted to basically feel like I started at ground zero. And I think that the environment that you put yourself in is going to determine, how far you can get. If you're around people who are slacking and not really trying that hard, you're going to tend to slack and not try that hard. Or if you are trying, you're not going to give your full effort because you don't have to. You giving your half effort is outbeating everyone else. So why give 100%? So definitely think about that when you are deciding to choose a gym or choose an environment that you're going to train in. Do it knowing that whatever that environment is going to affect your long-term goals. And that's something I've definitely learned in these last 10 years of lifting. The fifth thing I've learned in 10 years is that at some point you will have to learn how to overcome injury. That's something that, unfortunately, when you deal with weightlifting or anything active, injuries can and usually will happen. To what extent, it's going to depend on the person and the risk of that said sport. But learning to kind of manage those things and overcome them is very important, because they're going to happen, and you want to mentally prepare for it. Not in a way where you're afraid every time you go to work out, but just mentally in the back of your mind knowing, hey, if something does go wrong, I know that I have the tools in order to get better and get back to this. You guys know I've smashed my toes deadlifting. I've pulled my back before. I've had my knee give out on me before. I've dealt with a lot of different injuries. But what I did learn, as unfortunate as the events of that injury occurring, what I did get out of it was the fact that I learned how to switch my mindset into okay, now I'm in recovery mode. It's not about adding more weight. It's about getting back to where I was and just having that mentality. And that's something that over the last 10 years, having to deal with that, has really benefited me, and I think will benefit everyone once you're in the game long enough. The sixth thing I learned in 10 years of lifting is that in the world of lifting, we live in a very small realm. Like, it's a very little, small niche that we live in, and I think we forget that. We think like our PRs aren't good enough, or that we're not lifting the weights of the top athletes, in our powerlifting world, if you're in that. Or if you're in like the bodybuilding world, you're not as big as Mr. Olympia or whatever it is, whoever at the top you're comparing yourself to. I think what I've learned in these 10 years is that for the average person, if you're relatively strong, you're strong. Like, if you're lifting 400 pounds, it doesn't matter if the next guy's lifting 700. To the average person, 400 is a lot. And I think that especially in the realm of strength, we forget that, and we spend more time trying to compare ourselves to the top level athletes instead of realizing that, number one, it should be just a battle and competition against yourself first and foremost. But number two, that for most people, they look at us and they're probably looking at us as the strongest person that they know, if not one of them. The seventh thing I've learned in 10 years of lifting is that I believe everyone should have a coach and or trainer at some point in their lifting journey. The level of guidance that you're able to have from somebody who actually is experienced in whatever realm you tend to want to train in, I think that is going to aid you in your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and set you up for success. I didn't have one early on. Luckily enough, I was able to find information that led me to train relatively smartly. But the second that I wanted to powerlift, I hired a coach, and I learned more in those couple years of coaching than I think I had learned in the 5 years prior that I had been training on my own. And it's just having that person who is able to take that knowledge, make you a better lifter, and then embed that knowledge into you so you can then go share that with others, apply it to yourself. And I just think that that's so beneficial. And I know a lot of people have this mindset of, you know, they have an ego and they don't want to have somebody telling them how to train or what to do. But if you look at the best athletes in the world, they all have coaches. You know, they have their head coach, they have position coaches. So it's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's not something that you should avoid. And in fact, if you don't have a coach, I think you're selling yourself short. Which plug, if you are looking for a coach, I do have openings available. Feel free to hit me up. I'll leave a link over here on the side for a card feature. You can click on that, or you can send me a message and we'll have a consultation and we can get working together. So the eighth thing I've learned in 10 years of lifting, I actually mentioned a little bit earlier, and that's the fact that at some point you're going to develop an autopilot. And what I mean by an autopilot is you're going to develop the ability to kind of just lift. You're not going to always go in with 100% energy or 100% focus, but once you do this long enough, you kind of just do it. You know, there's some days where you're super zoned in, you know, the weight's feeling easy, you're having a great workout, and there's other days you come in and you're like a zombie and you're dragging and you're just, you know, you really don't feel like being there, but because you're so used to doing it, it's just second nature to you. You just go in and you just have that workout and you're on autopilot. And I think everybody kind of develops that at different paces, but eventually when you're in the game long enough, that's just kind of how it is. You know, whether you want to be there or not, you're going to be there just because you're on autopilot. The ninth thing I've learned in 10 years of lifting is the fact that this really is a true brotherhood. Like when they say like brother or sister in iron, like it's so impactful and it's so truthful. Just the amount of people that I've met, I don't think half the people that I know I would know if I wasn't lifting. I've met so many people just on this journey of mine, you know, from way back when I started my channel, from when I go and visit places, and it's interesting. Quick little story. I remember going to a friend's wedding, I think a couple years ago, and I went to a gym that was in a city there, and the people I was training with, they knew the people at that gym, and because I had that connection, they treated me so well. And it's just, you know, it's nice. It's nice knowing that you have this tie to people you've never met simply because you guys all enjoy adding weight to the barbell and doing better and making yourself better. Just having that true brotherhood means a lot, and definitely one of my favorite things I've learned in the last 10 years. And the 10th thing that I've learned in 10 years of lifting is that the lessons that I learned in the gym, I'm able to apply a lot of those outside of the gym. I think a lot of times we don't notice that the things we do because we're on autopilot, right? Like going to the gym, the discipline in doing that, the discipline of nutrition and drinking your water and getting your sleep and following a program. Those things translate outside of the gym to where you have the discipline to maybe wake up on time, go to work, get your work done. A lot of those things translate over. A big one for me was recovering from injury. It teaches you perseverance. It teaches you that, yeah, life's gonna knock you down and everything's not always gonna be in this upward trend. Sometimes you're gonna have a dip, and it's what are you gonna do about it? You know, are you gonna see the dip and then feel sorry for yourself? Or are you gonna see the dip and say, hey, I dipped a little bit, but I can get back if I just work really hard? For me, that's probably the most important thing that I've learned in these last 10 years. All right, guys, so before we close out the video, if you have something that you've learned in your last 10 years, or hell, if it hasn't even been 10 years from you, if it's been 10 days, what have you learned? Go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd really like to hear what you guys have learned so we can share amongst each other and maybe learn something new. All right, guys, if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up down below, really helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to click that bell next to the subscription button so you get notifications for all my new videos. It's execution over excuses. Dismiss.